So, hello and welcome again to my YouTube channel. And today we'll be reviewing a book that was published on 8th August 2024. The book, The President Ghana Never Got by Manasseh Azure Awuni. A book that is quite interesting for so many reasons. But is it worth your time? And buying, reading, delving further into it? We'll be looking at it. And of course, it chronicles the presidency of Ghana's former president, as at the time of making this video, Nana Akufo-Addo, who is the 5th president of the Ghana's 4th Republic and the 8th president in Ghana's history so far. So do all to enjoy the rest of the episode, and our cue starts now. Okay, so we are ready to start. Now, before we delve into it, here are a few disclaimers you have to know before we go even further. First, this is not a partisan review of the works of His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo. This is a literary review of the latest work by Manasseh. The review here reflects my opinions as a literature enthusiast, as a Ghanaian, and as a journalist as well. So, as you know, it chronicles the story or the presidency of Ghana's former president Nana Akufo-Addo, who was president from 2017 to 2024, recently succeeded by His Excellency John Mahama. Many of you across the world and in Ghana, I'm sure you've seen that very colorful handing over ceremony, or that swearing in ceremony of Ghana's newest president. Now, if you may, this is the uncertified biography of the president's tenure. Why the title? Now, it's quite an interesting story, really, and for many of you that are hoping to read this book, a reason why you should know is it says the president Ghana never got, and it's very interesting because Ghana really did have President Nana Akufo-Addo. The rationale, as explained in the pages of this book, is that there are two Nana Akufo-Addos that Ghana had. The first one was the non-president Nana Akufo-Addo, who had been vying for the race since the 90s to be president of Ghana, who unsuccessfully tried again in 2008 till he won the election in 2016, right? And that president, according to Manasseh, and many pundits agree, was a different Akufo-Addo, who was known as the civil rights advocate, the human rights lawyer, the Kumi Preko leader, the leader who fought for justice and the fought against the repeal, fought to get the repeal of the criminal libel law, among others. That Akufo-Addo had a certain characteristic in the way he appealed to the masses, in the way he took information, in the way he took criticisms and others. And there's the Akufo-Addo that Ghana did have. That is the Akufo-Addo who won the 2016 elections all the way till 2024, who was a very interesting Akufo-Addo. Some have labeled him as intolerant. Some have labeled him many other tags, I'm sure, either you can relate to or that you may have heard of them. So in the end, what the writer here of the book conveys is that the president that Ghanaians went to the polls in 2016 to actually vote for was the Akufo-Addo who had all these traits I had earlier spoken about. But he's not necessarily the Akufo-Addo that Ghanaians had, if you understand what I mean. So that explains the rationale of the pages of this book, that there was an Akufo-Addo that Ghanaians never had. It goes on to talk about the Akufo-Addo we had and what trait he seemed not to have of the Akufo-Addo pre-presidency. So if you understand, that's what warrants the title of this book. Now, still on the basic facts, it is 385 pages long. So definitely a mouthful for the reading, but definitely worth the read. It has 7 parts, 44 chapters, including prologue and epilogue as well. Now, to my thoughts on the book, I think it's brilliant. It's certainly very insightful. Now, it gets you into the world of politics and offers you an understanding that is usually relegated to journalists, relegated to politicians, and people that work inside the corridors of power. This book breaks it down for the average person to have that understanding. So it doesn't matter what your career or profession is or what kind of citizen that you are in the state, it gives you that overview, sort of like a behind the scenes look at the happenings inside and outside of the power corridors of state. So let's talk about the writing style, right, that Manasseh Azure Awuni uses. And Manasseh Azure Awuni himself is a seasoned journalist, an investigative journalist in Ghana, an award-winning one for that matter. The writing style that he employs for this book is that the text or the diction is simple yet very well researched. Also, he employs the Achebe style of writing. So you read that he writes a lot of wise sayings in the book, a lot of proverbs, and a lot of literary language for one to be able to successfully digest. So he employs the Achebe style of writing, and you know Chinua Achebe is the father of modern African literature, as is shown in works like Things Fall Apart, and Tales of Savannah, and many others. So Manasseh Azure Awuni, who is a seasoned journalist, employs similar communication style. He talks about very serious matters, but there are points when he resorts to wise sayings. And in fact, almost every section of the book is punctuated with one wise saying or the another to reiterate the necessity or the situation that he may be talking about for your reading pleasure at that particular chapter or channel. Now, part of the novel is drowned in figures, I must admit. When you're reading on the Ameri deal, the PDS scandals, and so many others, there are a lot of figures both in dollars and cedis, and a few other technical jargons that might be a bit difficult to read. But the writer is able to successfully break it down for you to understand the gravity of the situation, the loss to the state, the indecision or the poor decision making on the side of government, and of course, the culpable souls that surround these very things. One thing I also like about this book is the fact that it's able to link history to present day. So just like a great movie or a great literary material, it's able to go back and forth. It's not an all set story between 2017 and 2024 alone. We get flashbacks of the UGCC era, where Ghana's first political party was being formed, the background to that, the heralds of the independence, and how the divisions that came along that eventually brought Ghana's MPP and NDC to power, the effects that it has, the JB Dankwa effect on Akufo-Addo, and why certain decisions seem to be leaning towards a particular faction. You'd recall comments as made by former running mate of the MPP's flag bearer, Dr. Maudu Baumia, in the person of Matthew Puku Prempe, who said that Monkromano and some people took quite an offense to that. It explains the rationale of such thought that moves within the progressive movement of Buzia, and how it keeps spreading and keeps working till date, and even explains how the NDC also have the ideologies to that effect. Now let's get into the highlights of the book. One thing I like us to do is, even though I won't delve into the book itself, it has, as I mentioned, quite a number of chapters, and 44 chapters, and I'd like us to see the headlines for various chapters, which will inform you on what to look forward to as you read this book. So our prologue is, we got him but did not get him. I've already explained that to you. One is the presidential crown and frown. Chapter 2 is called How It Began with Akufo-Addo's Mentor. Chapter 3, From Dankwa Bizia Tradition to MPP. Chapter 4, How the National Patriotic Party became New Patriotic Party. 5, A Short Man Born on an Ant Hill. Chapter 6, What Akufo-Addo Promised. And all these are just part 1, right? In part 2, we have debt paying, ministerial appointment, and why Akufo-Addo dislikes reshuffle, the good, bad, and ugly legacy of Akufo-Addo, from taxation to and borrowing to IMF, Ghana's worst economy in living memory, and it goes all the way to chapter 4, an interesting epilogue on why I will not vote in 2024. Personally, my favorite chapter in this book is chapter 22, that talks about the NDC's military-style operation that enthroned Bagman. And prior to the 2024 election, in 2020, we had former Speaker Michael Quay of Parliament, former Speaker of Parliament Michael Quay being ousted when his time was up, and having a new speaker in the person of Honorable Sumana Kingsford Bagman. And now it communicates about the stories that were behind the scenes, how the NDC, under the leadership of Honorable Mutaka and so many others, rallied to make that thing a success, even though they weren't in government at a particular time. It's certainly an enlightening read, it's insightful, and it even explains the parliamentary character that some of us may have associated with it in the past few days or years. Okay, now let's talk about characters. It's interesting because for a book centered on the presidency of ex-president Nana Akufo-Addo, you'd expect that the main focus would be on the president, but interestingly enough, it's not the only focus. In fact, it's not the main focus. If you are reading this book, it doesn't focus only on the president. We have other characters that are as important, as influential in the presidency of Nana Akufo-Addo, that even if you weren't paying attention to it previously, the book would pull your mind to. So the Ghanaian people, the Ghanaian electorate, how we vote, how we've been acting in terms of that administration prior to it, and even a little after, is foreshadowed or written in this book. Parliament is one of the major characters in this book, like I hinted earlier. I'm talking about how it acts and others as such. The judiciary plays a crucial role in this book. We get to understand how certain judges had the point, or one judge had the opportunity at the point to nearly be appointed as, or pushed for, as Speaker of Ghana's Parliament. We also get the NDC as a body and their actions as a major character in this book. Also, there are many other characters in this book. One very interesting one that is front and center of the administration, especially where corruption is concerned, where sanitation is concerned, is how Manasseh Azure Awuni fingers the Jospon group of companies for their activities that he points out with lots of empirical evidence, at least in writing, too. And it's very interesting. If anyone has been following Manasseh Azure Awuni, he has been keen on fighting bribery and corruption, and he has been bringing out lots about how the assemblies in his work, robbing the assemblies and so many others, how the assemblies seem to be cheated, if you may, and how the average worker who is working for sanitation groups like Zoom Lion Group and under the Jospon group of companies seem to be exploited, that they are not getting their money's worth when government actually allocates enough funds to such companies. So much of these issues are sorted and raised in this book as well, and it certainly makes for good reading, whether you're of the political class or not. Definitely for journalists, it is a must recommend. Now, this book is a triumph, definitely, in Ghanaian literature, and it's a plus that you should have it on your bookshelves. It's also a necessary document for history and political observers, regardless of which perspective that you come from in the Ghanaian dispensation of statehood. Now, for those of you who are still biased in a way about reading this book, here's what I can tell you. Not to sound cliche, but do not judge the book by its cover. Purchase it, read it, and I think you should make up your mind on your own. Certainly, you may not agree with all the things that Manasseh has to say, but he definitely raises conversation on very, very important matters that you should know and that you should be involved in. Now, although I certainly love this book per my reading of it, a fair review of the book cannot be precise without talking about the downsides or some of the challenges that it poses. Like I mentioned earlier, it has a certain quality to it in parts that makes it sound quite technical and might be a bit difficult for the untrained eye to gloss over or fully understand. All the same, these challenges in balancing these challenges with the positives definitely come out on top, and it's worth your time for you to read. How do I rate it? On a scale of 10, this book, in my view, is a 7.5 out of 10, which means it's definitely a good read and one that you should consider buying and reading, and if not for anything, keeping for historical purposes. It's very important, and we usually don't have that. The writers argued that we often don't have lots of people, as in the West, writing on the legacies and the times of our presidents that come and go. So regardless of the perspective that you stand on, it's necessary that we write more, that we're able to read more and use it as a document of reference in the future days that come. So that's all for this particular book review. Manasseh Azure Awuni's The President Ghana Never Got. Certainly a delicious read and worth your time. Have you read it yet? What are your thoughts? Do want to share with me in the comment section below. And a reminder that, of course, this review was brought to you by the Voice Over People. Thank you for your time and see you next time.